As most of us know already, Disney has made some of the most memorable movies throughout recent history. But in this episode of FTD News in History, we're going to take a look at some of those memorable movies and point out some things that you may or may not have noticed in them. As well as we're going to check out some of the original versions of these Disney fairy tales, and some of them are a lot more creepy than Disney made them out to be. Now let me know, guys, down in the comments, what are some of your favorite Disney movies? From The Lion King, we have Scar. You remember Scar? Probably my favorite villain in a Disney cartoon movie. With a scar over his eye, like, he just looked badass. But no, he was pure evil. So remember in The Lion King when Zazu told Mufasa that Scar would make a very handsome throw rug?
He'd make a very handsome throw rug. Zazu.
Well, he did in fact do that, because did you notice in the Disney version of the movie Hercules that Scar is actually the lion that Hercules killed for one of his trials, and then he wears it as a trophy. But while we're on the topic of The Lion King, for the movie they actually used the roars of tigers because the roars of lions weren't loud enough. Now, have you ever wondered why so many Disney characters are motherless? There's Land Before Time, where Littlefoot's mom died, Bambi, Cinderella, Ariel, the Little Mermaid, Belle from Beauty and the Beast, Jasmine from Aladdin, Pocahontas, Nemo, and the list goes on. Well, that's all because Walt Disney's guilt over his mother's death in 1938. The story is that he bought a home for his parents after the success of the Snow White, and that's when a faulty heating system in the home led to the death of Flora Disney, and she died from carbon monoxide poisoning. Now, the code A113 has showed up in pretty much all of Disney's and Pixar's movies ever made. I'm sure you never noticed this one, but take a look at these. The number is actually a room of the California Institute of Arts. It was a classroom for first-year graphic design and character animation, where many of the animators at Pixar and Disney discovered and mastered their craft. Now, to save money, Disney used to recycle animations that had previously been done. Now, if you take a look at these three, there's the Aristocats and Robin Hood, Snow White and Robin Hood, and Winnie the Pooh and the Jungle Book. Lots of hidden secrets with Disney, but we're just scratching the surface. Now, a lot of people, including myself, have wondered what type of beast was the Beast from the Beauty and the Beast? Well, according to his animators, he's a combination of 7 different animals. He has the mane of a lion, he has the beard of a buffalo, he has the brows of a gorilla, the eyes of a human, the tusk of a wild boar, the body of a bear, and the legs and tail of a wolf. Now, is it just me, or did Aladdin and Ariel from The Little Mermaid look a little familiar? Okay, well, if they looked familiar to you and you just couldn't put your finger on it, it was because Aladdin was actually modeled after Tom Cruise, and Ariel was modeled after Alyssa Milano. Yeah, I can kind of see that a little bit. Not really. Okay, this one seems to be a bit of a stretch for me. But I do not even care. I am not the only one that had a cartoon crush on Ariel. And also Jasmine from Aladdin. Now, who didn't love Boo from Monsters, Inc? And you know, in animation, they actually use adults that impersonate toddlers. However, in Monsters, Inc, Mary Gibbs was just a toddler at the time, and the production team had a hard time to get her to record. So they followed her around the studio and pieced Boo's dialogue together from things that she said during the time that she was playing. While there's times where other Disney characters from movies appeared in other Disney and Pixar movies, kind of like how Scar appeared in Hercules, except he wasn't dead. For example, Pizza Planet Truck from Toy Story has showed up in The Brave, Wall-E, Cars, A Bug's Life, Ratatouille, Monsters, Inc., Up, and Finding Nemo. Speaking of Wall-E, he was named after Walter Elias Disney. And in Tarzan, the China set from Beauty and the Beast makes an appearance, except they weren't talking, they were just there. The voice of Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh is also the voice of Optimus Prime from Transformers. That's like the total complete opposite of characters. One is like just, oh, poor me and timid and shy, and the other one is, I'm Optimus Prime. Talk about transforming. Now, we just talked about some of the things that you may or may not have noticed in Disney movies, but have you ever heard of the real original stories that some of these Disney fairy tales were based on? Let's take Cinderella, for example. In the Brothers Grimm version of Cinderella, the tale is completely different. One of the evil stepsisters actually cut her toes off to fit into the glass slipper, and the other one cut off her heel. But when the word got back to the prince that there was blood in the slippers, he went back on his search. When Cinderella and the prince did get married, the stepsister's eyes were pecked out by birds as punishment. Now, in the Brothers Grimm version of Snow White, again, the villains had a very gruesome end. The queen was invited to Snow White's wedding, but when she showed up, she was given a pair of hot iron shoes and forced to dance to death in front of everybody at the wedding. Now, in Sleeping Beauty, we know it to end like, the prince kills the dragon, kisses the Sleeping Beauty, and she wakes up and it's all happily ever after. However, in the 17th century tale, Sun, Moon, and Talia, the prince didn't kiss Talia when he found her sleeping. He was actually a king and he raped her. She woke up months later with twin babies, Sun and Moon, then was reunited with the king, who was already married at the time. However, she did get a happily ever after, if we could call it that, but that was only after the current queen tried to make the king eat her babies. We got rape and cannibalism in these fairy tales? Wow. Well, he ended up throwing the queen in the fire and ended up marrying Talia instead. Sorry to spoil your childhood and warped images that you may have had of these cute fairy tales, but no, the Disney versions weren't the original. Our final one is of Pinocchio. Now, I felt bad for Pinocchio because, he just wanted to be a real boy. But guys, the real Pinocchio was a jerk. In the original version, he murdered the story's version of Jiminy Cricket in the first act. And Geppetto ended up going to jail for negligence. Now, when Geppetto does get out, he sells his only coat to send Pinocchio to school and to buy him a school book, which Pinocchio then sells for the theater tickets. And from there, he just gets worse. And it's hard to even feel bad for him after this. Now, he comes to an end when Fox and Cat hangs him from a tree and leave him to just suffocate to death. But that does it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for joining me here. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to be notified of future videos. We do daily videos as well as news and history episodes, so there's something for everybody. Thank you so much for watching this episode of FTD News in History. Now, if you're still in the mood for something mysterious and a bit on the creepy side, check out the true story behind the movie The Conjuring 2. It's based on the real-life events of the Enfield poltergeist, one of the most popular hauntings in history. But if you want something a bit bizarre and unbelievable, you can also check out this video of the man with half a head. In it, I actually look at several people that have survived the impossible, living with large portions of their brain missing. Be sure to keep it tuned in here to FTD News, and I'll see you soon.